Harvey's News and Comment, and Paul is brought to you today by Rock Hill National Bank.
Hello, Americans. This is Paul Harvey. Stand by for news. But first, the Electric Information Council has a trivia question for you. Which river in the United States provides the most hydropower? Hydropower accounted for 12% of the electricity produced last year. After the initial investment, operating costs are very low. So, which river in the United States provides the most hydropower? The Mississippi? The Missouri? No. The Hudson? No, it's the Columbia River of the Northwest. At one time, the Columbia River and its tributaries supplied nearly all of the Northwest's electrical power. Then in the 1960s, they needed more electricity. Today, about 25% is primarily coal and nuclear power with a small mix of other energy sources. But hydropower still provides 75% of the electricity to the Northwest. The problem is, there is no Columbia River to provide that level of hydropower for the rest of us. The rest of us need to generate electricity from what resources we have. Coal, oil, nuclear, whatever. It takes them all to keep our lights lit. Politics, most Americans believe a woman would be just as good a president as a man. Let me run that by again. The latest survey shows most Americans believe that a woman would be just as good a president as a man and better at controlling government spending. In computing our nation's balance of trade with other nations, the numbers have appeared worse than they are. The imbalance has appeared more lopsided than it is by about $10 billion a year because we have not been keeping close enough check on our trade with Canada. Cross-border truckers have been down pricing what they're taking out of the United States. So when you hear the next balance of trade statistics in a day or so, they will include these exports to Canada. A Concorde supersonic jet landed so hard at Kennedy yesterday it blew 5 of its 10 tires. Nobody hurt. At the same time, there were near misses of planes in flight in Los Angeles, Chicago. There have been 6 near misses in 4 days. Americans may yet rue the day they let their railroads decay. And for other reasons also, the Soviets have now mounted strategic missiles on railroad cars, creating for us an almost impossible moving target. Britain and now France are sending minesweepers to the Middle East. Robert Orban wants somebody someday to explain why we gave up the Panama Canal, but we're willing to fight for the Persian Gulf. Unfinished business. Last month we talked about the endurance horse race in Oklahoma, where horses died during the cruel race only to be hastily buried and thus concealed. The Rogers County District Attorney has enough evidence now, has filed charges against the promoters of that race, 7 counts of cruelty to animals. Promoter William McAnally could get 5 years on each charge. How about that sting operation in New York and New Jersey? An FBI agent offered bribes to municipal employees, highway superintendents, and purchasing directors and such. He offered 106 payoffs to municipal officials. You know, he was turned down only once, and that time because his bribe was too small. 44 municipal officials face charges, others will. Each could get 20 years. One of the factors adding to your grocery store prices, one significant factor making everything in the store cost more, is that the store has to replace all of those stolen shopping carts. You think that's not a major expense. Those carts cost from $60 to $150 each. One Walgreens store has had to replace 30 new carts in the past 24 months. The other day, they raided a housing project in San Francisco, Valencia Gardens. They found 87 carts from Safeway, Walgreens, Rainbow Grocery. A whale of a fish story. John Spen in northern Manitoba has caught a northern pike weighing 32 pounds. This may be a world record. 47.5 inches long. My goodness, that's 4 feet long, almost 2 feet around the middle. God's Lake, Manitoba, caught it on a red daredevil spoon, 17-pound line. Now page 2. A favorite car of car thieves was the Chevrolet Corvette. Who wouldn't want a Corvette? So as I say, it was the car thief's favorite until General Motors invented the magic passkey. An electronic code is built into the ignition. An electronic pellet is embedded in the key. Nobody else's key will work. and the ignition and the fuel system cannot be activated any other way. Now listen, the first year this system was installed on Corvettes, theft losses for that car went down 45%. The theft losses were cut almost in half in 1 year. So, the 1988 Pontiac Trans Am GTA is next to be operated only by GM's Magic Pass Key. More and more General Motors cars will be so equipped. Meanwhile, whatever car you drive, after you park, turn the steering wheel as far as it'll go in one direction, then turn off the ignition. Leave the wheels canted, and take your key and lock the doors. It'll encourage the car thief to pass yours by. I keep watching the things that General Motors is doing in your behalf. I mean, above and beyond the making of fine cars. And I understand why yet another generation is coming to respect GM as the mark of excellence. It is the law now in the state of New York. If a person suffers cardiac arrest or respiratory arrest, if he wants to die, he must be allowed to die. This allows patients to decide in advance, to delegate a family member to make the choice, and then the doctor and the hospital are off the hook. They are not liable if they do not resuscitate. Many states have laws or are contemplating laws allowing the removal of life support systems for the terminally ill, but this is our nation's first do not resuscitate law. Every year, 500,000 Americans have surgery for gallstones. For 4 years, we've been experimenting with a shock wave machine, which is fast replacing surgery by pulverizing the stones with sound waves. The treatment's virtually painless, may not even require hospitalization. Dr. Johnson Thistle of Mayo's cautions that the machines may produce fragments which could block the bile duct. But the Dornier Company of West Germany is placing in 10 medical centers in the United States a new and improved model of their shock wave machine, which may reduce that risk. A drug which promises to increase sexual desire is being tested at 15 research centers. Drug known as LY16350, made by Lilly, and yes, it does promise to increase sexual potency. And no, they do not need any more volunteers. Fish oils are being recommended for reducing the risk of heart disease. American Academy of Dermatology reports that fish oil may also be useful in the treatment of skin diseases, including psoriasis. The American Academy of Dermatology is also advising physicians to watch for cases of leprosy. The number of cases has been increasing with the influx of immigrants from areas where that disease is indigenous. Vanderbilt will soon be testing an AIDS vaccine on humans, but they don't expect completion of the tests before 1990. Now, there is a way that certain drugs for AIDS, for cancer, for Alzheimer's, there is a way you can get and use certain drugs while they're still experimental, before the FDA gives control. Doctors and pharmacists legally can compound such drugs for use now. I mentioned this during yesterday's noontime visit, and the expressed interest in the subject is such that I will repeat and have more details for you during our noontime visit on Saturday. How you can get and use some promising drugs while the FDA jury is still out. Talk about it Saturday noon, page 3.
If you've enjoyed banking in the temporary facility that has been Rock Hill National Bank's Carowinds Boulevard office for the last year or so, we have bad news. We understand your attraction to the intimacy of banking in a single wide mobile home, and we'll soon share your nostalgia for these pioneer days. But we're sorry, the trailer's out of here. By August 17th, it'll be gone, and we'll be celebrating the opening of our new Carowinds Boulevard office. There'll be gifts, there'll be registration for prizes, and for the first 50 of you who open a personal checking or savings account with a beginning balance of $200 or more, you'll have your choice of a charcoal lighter, an RHNP coffee mug, beverage can cooler, or golf towel with chain. It's fun and prizes during our Carowinds Boulevard grand opening, August 17th through August 21st. Register for prizes at any RHNB office. Rock Hill National Bank, member FDIC.
Danny Canalero robbed a bank in Oakland, California. Danny stuffed the money into his breeches pocket and ran. He did not know the money was booby-trapped. He had gone only a short distance when the money exploded in his breeches pocket. Guess who is suing the bank for $2 million? About the nomination of Bob Bork to the Supreme Court, the former Chief Justice Warren Burger says this: Bork has it all. integrity, intelligence, and experience. It may be that no man or woman ever nominated to the High Court has qualifications to match his. Berger says the Senate should act quickly to confirm. In Chicago, there's a veterans discussion group which meets regularly to discuss the merits of war. Are wars worth fighting, for example? Yesterday's debate was over the relative geopolitical significance of the Korean War and World War II, and it escalated into an argument until the World War II veteran pulled a gun and shot the Korean veteran. Pueblo on the grow. Pueblo, Colorado has added another industry, Barnes Engineering out of Anaheim. Pueblo and the steel industry got sick together 2 years ago. Pueblo got well. Pueblo has sold itself to 17 companies in 2 years, has cut unemployment to less than half. Austin Bond never was one to rush into things. Besides, when he fell in love with Loda Mullen in Bellingham, Washington, he did not have a job. He didn't have the means to support a wife, so they waited. They graduated from Bellingham Normal, both became teachers, but they waited. They are married now. Austin figures he's pretty well set now, so he and Loda, and this is 67 years since they were childhood sweethearts, are married. Austin is 87 now. The blushing bride would be about that. Today's roses to Maura and Floyd Small of San Diego, California. The Smalls, both well, have today been Mrs. and Mr. for 76 years. In Riverside, suburban Chicago, police officer Tom Weitzel approached an illegally parked car and took a shotgun blast in the chest. Survived. Bulletproof vest. Mr. Chicago, Cup of the Sun-Times, had surgery yesterday for the removal of colon polyps. They were not malignant. Prognosis excellent. Today's bumper sticker seen by Jeff Miller in Mountain Park, Georgia. Bumper sticker says, "Caution, driver applying makeup." The National Association of Religious Broadcasters is contemplating a new code of ethics for all televangelists. They will be required to release an annual audit of their finances or else forfeit membership. The Billy Graham organization has always made its annual financial report available to anybody. Now, page 4. One of the most dynamic success stories in American industry. When you and I first started talking about Viadent 4 years ago, I promised that this was the greatest breakthrough in dentistry in 30 years, and it certainly was. Viadent was then a $13,000 business. Now it's 4 years later, it's a $13 million business. Then you had a hard time finding Viadent in the drugstore. Today it's in 60,000 drugstores. Now, how come? How come this phenomenal acceptance of a new product in such a short time? Because Viadent toothpaste and Viadent oral rinse really do away with plaque. And it's plaque which has been causing adult Americans to develop soft gums and lose teeth. 90% of all Americans have this colorless bacteria eating away at them. 90% of all Americans. But Viadent with sanguinaria is the most effective product anywhere for preventing plaque. So now you can keep your natural teeth all your natural life. What fluoride did for cavities, Viadent does for plaque. You can keep your natural teeth from here to hereafter with Viadent. Any questions, ask your dentist or dial 1-800-VIADENT. Agribusiness, the number of farms in the United States is 2% fewer than 1 year ago. 38,500 farmers have gone out of farming. All of the farms in the United States now number only a fraction over 2 million. 2.17 million. Maryland's oyster harvest this year will be the worst ever, a deadly parasite in the bay. Kilgore, Texas News Herald is tattling on a city man at a farm auction there. The city man at the farm auction was kind of distracted by the farmer's beautiful daughter. And when she winked and smiled and nodded his way, he nodded back. And later he learned that he'd bought a butter churn, a team of mules, and a blind cow. Our For What It's Worth department has a footnote to yesterday's visit. Yesterday we knew only that circus performers in Hazel Park, Michigan wanted to get married in the lion's cage with 6 lions in attendance, remember? And the bride and groom were prepared, but the minister called in sick. They have secured another minister. It is a woman, the Reverend Beverly Best. She will officiate at the wedding ceremony on Thursday. She says it will be an entirely proper wedding service. The Reverend Best says it will be a short ceremony. Paul Harvey, good day.